Officer Schellhorn is indicative of the problem so many cities face across the country. Many have created a police force that has now decided that there's an us versus them narrative that justifies the idea of treating fellow American citizens as others in order to marginalize and reduce a person's humanity, to validate their mistreatment of them, which is often rooted in hatred and racial supremacy. The sadness I felt as an ex-soldier in reading Mr. Schellhorn's disparaging remarks, using derogatory language to describe people he felt didn't have a voice, was very troubling, because it tells me it's the mind of a person that does not see people of colors and others different than himself or his group as due justice and respect.
I'm here because I've been coming to these meetings for quite some time. I'm pleased to see so many people here to observe what has been going on for quite some time. I've said for many years, I don't have a problem with the Citizen Police Review Board. I think you're doing the best job you can within your parameters. My problem is with the Orlando Police Department, and that it has a problem when it comes to excessive force cases, especially in communities of color. I don't care what Chief Mina has said. He's called me a liar in previous meetings. I know that Orlando goes between 1 and 2 for excessive force cases, number 1 and 2 in the country. Go to mappingpoliceviolence.com. I am sick and tired of people not understanding. If you live in zip code 32805, 32811, or 328 part of 808, you got a problem.
This week, and we've been coming to these meetings for a while, at least almost about a year and a half now. But this week, we had Colin Kaepernick and Nike. They came out with a new campaign ad that says, "Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything." And I know Luana and several activists have been sacrificing for a long time. And myself, I've been sacrificing everything to hold Orlando Police Department accountable, specifically Robert Schellborn. But my problem is not with one individual officer, it's with the system that allows this officer to think that he can be a white supremacist and wear a uniform within the city beautiful. That's my issue. This officer who has a problem with people with disabilities, this is not just he said something racially charged or racist. He has a problem with people with disabilities. He has a problem with women, calling Heather Hair an asshole because she was protesting white supremacy in Charlottesville. This guy is a problem. He has a problem with people who have liberal values. He is a liability not only to the city of Orlando and our public safety, but also to his fellow officers. My issue is with officers who have consistently have police misconduct, police brutality, and they're allowed to go out in the city and not be held accountable, but still profit off of their bigotry and their hatred. My problem is for this same officer who I filed a Citizen Review Board complaint to contact me personally and show me and send me pictures of his motorcycle that he's still on duty at Lake Eola. My problem is with a system where I get subpoenaed and people who who wrote statements about the city, about this officer, we now have to take time out of our day, out of our work, because we are now subpoenaed by the city of Orlando because this officer wants to have his suspension reduced from 80 hours to 11 to 13 hours, knowing that this officer makes $187,000 a year. Because the police unions and cowards like Sean Dunlap, who's behind me, who decided today to look at me after a year, but he can't face actual internal affairs complaints because he found the technicality, because we have police unions who are safeguarding these white supremacists in uniforms. That's a problem.
Come out in support of not just Mr. Legacy's cause, but in support of the community. I think we got a serious issue here, and it's all about accountability at the end of the day. I'll quote the words of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. where it says, our lives begin to end when we become silent about things that matter. Black lives matter. All lives do matter too, but we're specifically going to deal with black lives. We have an instance where an officer has been called out showing his colors and how he feels about persons of color, right? And so let's go back to Dr. King. Dr. King was striving for peace and unity amongst people, all people of color, different ethnic background, different everything. But what we fail to realize with Dr. King is how his life ended. Dr. King was killed. Dr. King was taken out by a person who didn't look like him, who didn't like the messages that he was transcending. So we can avoid any incidents of that sort. It is not just Mr. Legacy's wish and Ms. Gelser's wish, but this community's wish that we dismiss Mr. Schellborn from the people who are supposed to be serving and protecting us, because he clearly has a bias about that.
I believe with all of my heart that the majority of people who serve as first responders do so with a servant's heart. I have been blessed to know many first responders. I consider a former NYPD first responder one of my best friends, and I often refer to her as my angel. But I believe that it would be irresponsible not to remind this board that nearly half of the issues of police violence occur against persons with disabilities, including mental health issues. Those persons of color who have disabilities, including mental health conditions, are particularly vulnerable to police violence for multiple reasons, including lack of access to service. We also need to remember that the R word is hate speech. It is hate speech towards persons with intellectual disabilities. It is hate speech towards persons with mental health conditions, and it is also commonly used as a slur to refer to people with physical disabilities, even though that is an incorrect use of hate speech. There can be such a thing. It is exclusive because it shows the user's idea that able-bodied people are superior. It is derogatory because it focuses on the user's assumptions of what the person with the disability cannot do instead of their disabilities. Just because someone has an intellectual disability does not make them stupid. And finally, it is offensive because it focuses on the person with disability and not on the person.
It is troubling that we have an officer who is wholly unfit to wear the badge still working for Orlando Police Department. I think that you were correct in calling for his termination. I do have serious issues with the process within OPD where they assigned a penalty that somehow circumvented the authority or the oversight of this board. I think that that needs to be changed. I have a huge issue with basically what it looks like to me, the department usurped the authority of this board and undermined the credibility of this board. Undermine the authority of this board to make the decision in this matter. I support what you guys recommended as termination. I think that that is exactly what needed to happen.